The school hallway was full of noise, footsteps, laughter, shouting. Students moved in groups, talking loudly, sharing jokes. But one boy walked alone. Ayan. He kept his head down, books close to his chest. No one noticed him. No one waved. He was like a shadow, quiet, soft, almost invisible. He wasn't new. He had been in the school for years. But still, he felt like a stranger. Teachers knew his name, but barely spoke to him. Students passed him by like he didn't exist. Ayan didn't mind too much. Not really. He had learned to live in silence. After lunch, it was time for music class. The students walked in with energy. Some carried guitars. Some were already singing. The teacher, Mr. Kamal, smiled warmly at the group. Today, Mr. Kamal said, "We are doing something fun. I want each of you to come up and play or sing something. Anything at all. Just express yourself." The class cheered. Some students clapped. One boy walked straight to the front without waiting. Zayn. He wore a branded jacket, expensive shoes. His hair was styled perfectly. His father was a famous businessman. Everyone liked him, or at least pretended to. Zayn sat at the school piano. His fingers moved fast across the keys. The sound filled the room. A fast, flashy tune. Loud. Impressive. When he finished, the class clapped loudly. Zayn stood, smiled, and gave a little bow. Thank you," he said like a celebrity. Then he looked toward the back of the class and saw Ayan. Zayn raised his eyebrows. "Hey, quiet boy," he called. "Why don't you play something?" The class turned. All eyes on Ayan. He froze in his seat. Mr. Kamal smiled kindly. "Ayan, it's okay if you don't want to. Only if you're comfortable." But Zayn wasn't done. "Oh, come on," he laughed. "Can you even play a single note? Or do you just sit and dream all day?" A few students chuckled. Ayan didn't say a word. He stood up and walked out of the room. No one stopped him, not even the teacher. At home, the sky outside was cloudy. Ayan entered his small room quietly. The walls were plain. The window was small, but in one corner, under his bed, lay something hidden, covered in a cloth. He bent down and pulled it out. An old keyboard. It was dusty. The keys had small cracks. The wires were tangled. But to Ayan, it was everything. It had once belonged to his father. Ayan still remembered how his father used to play, eyes closed, smile wide. The music would fill the house with joy. But after his father passed away, the house fell silent. And so did Ayan. No one had heard him play since. Not even his mother. Not even his little sister. But now, something inside him felt different. He plugged in the keyboard. The red light blinked. It still worked. Ayan sat down. He placed his fingers on the keys, slowly, gently. And then, he played. The first note was soft. Then another. Then a slow, beautiful tune began. It wasn't loud like Zayn's. It wasn't fast. But it was honest, full of feeling, full of memories. Each note told a story. A quiet story. Of pain. Of love. Of missing someone deeply. Ayan closed his eyes as he played. In the doorway, his little sister, barely 10 years old, stood watching. She said nothing. She just listened. Tears formed in her eyes, but she smiled. The song ended. Ayan looked up and saw her standing there. "You're really good," she whispered. Ayan gave a small smile. "Thanks." She walked closer. "Why don't you play at school?" Ayan shrugged. "They don't want to hear me." She shook her head. "That's not true." He turned back to the keyboard. "I don't want to prove anything," he said. "I just want to play." She nodded and sat beside him on the floor. He started playing again. This time, the song was a little louder, a little braver, but still soft. Still Ayan. Night fell over the small town. Most windows were dark, but in one house, behind a closed door, music still played. Ayan sat at his old keyboard, fingers dancing across the broken keys. His little sister sat on the bed, hugging a pillow, eyes wide with wonder. The soft light from the desk lamp lit only part of his face, but in that light, he looked different, free. This was his world. No noise, no judgment, no cruel laughter, just music. He didn't need words here. The keys spoke for him. Each sound was a piece of his heart. Later that night, after his sister fell asleep, Ayan sat on his chair, staring at his small, cracked laptop. The internet was slow. The screen flickered. He opened a website, YouTube. His hands shook a little. Should I do it? He whispered to himself. He had recorded a short piece earlier, just 2 minutes of this playing. He had no camera, so it was only sound. No name, no photo, no face, just music. He clicked upload. He didn't title it. He didn't expect anything. Just one more sound in a world full of noise. He shut the laptop and went to bed. The next morning at school, something strange happened. People were talking. Really talking. Not about sports or parties, but about a video. Did you hear that piano clip? One girl asked her friend. It was beautiful, the friend replied. Who played it? No one knows. It's just called Untitled. But it's, wow. Zayn walked past them, laughing. Come on, it's probably fake. Who even cares about piano music these days? But more students were whispering, sharing the link. Teachers too. In the music class, Mr. Kamal had his laptop open. He played the mystery video. The classroom went quiet. Even Zayn didn't speak. At the back of the room, Ayan sat silently. He knew. That was him. But he didn't say a word. Not yet. That evening at home, Ayan checked the video again. 3,000 views and 150 comments. He scrolled slowly. This made me cry. Whoever played this, you have a gift. Please post more. It feels like someone understands me. The world needs to hear this. Ayan blinked. He had never heard so many kind words in his life. He clicked on a comment and typed, "Thank you." It was the first time he had spoken online. The next day, Zayn was bragging again. I'm performing at the talent show next week, he said loudly in the cafeteria. It's gonna be huge. A group of students clapped. Someone asked, Are you playing piano? Zayn smirked. Of course, I always play something great. You all know that. A girl asked quietly, What if the mystery pianist performs too? Zayn's face changed. He looked annoyed. There's no mystery pianist, he said. It's probably just a copied track. Anyone can fake that. Later that day, Ayan stayed behind after music class. He walked up to Mr. Kamal slowly. Sir, can I join the talent show? The teacher's eyes widened in surprise. You want to perform? Ayan nodded. On the piano. Mr. Kamal smiled. Of course, Ayan. I would love that. The next morning, the school speaker crackled. The principal's voice came on. We have a new student performer added to the list for next week's talent show. Please welcome Ayan. The halls went silent. Students looked around. Ayan, that quiet kid. Wait, wasn't he in our class? Is he the piano guy? Zayn's hands tightened into fists. After school, Zayn met Ayan outside. He smiled, but it was not a kind smile. So, you're playing at the show now? Ayan didn't answer. Zayn stepped closer. You better not embarrass yourself. This show's important. Big guests are coming. People who matter. Ayan looked at him calmly. I'm not doing it for them, he said. I'm doing it for me. Then he walked away. Zayn stood frozen, surprised by the confidence in Ayan's voice. That night, Ayan sat at his keyboard again. But this time, something was different. He wasn't playing for his room anymore. He was playing for the world. And for the first time in his life, he felt ready. The school buzzed with excitement. Posters for the talent show were everywhere, on doors, walls, and windows. This Friday, special guests, live music. Every student was talking about it. But the biggest surprise was one name on the poster, Ayan. Piano performance. Some students were confused. Who's Ayan? That silent guy. Others remembered the mysterious video. Maybe he's the one who posted it. Some just laughed. Come on, he never even speaks. He'll freeze on stage. Zayn was enjoying the attention. He had practiced a flashy, fast song. His new suit was ready. His father had promised to come with some important guests from the music industry. Zayn believed this show would be his moment, his big entry into fame. But ever since Ayan joined the list, something inside Zayn felt cold. So he did what he always did. He made jokes. 2 days before the show, in the music room, students were rehearsing. Zayn walked over to where Ayan sat quietly, writing something in a notebook. "Hey," Zayn said loudly. "Are you sure you know how to play piano?" A few students turned to listen. Ayan didn't look up. Zayn smirked. "I mean, is your act just sitting in silence, or do you plan to press a key this time?" Some kids chuckled. Ayan closed his notebook and stood up slowly. "I'll play," he said simply. Zayn stepped closer. "Better not mess it up," he whispered. "My father's bringing people from the music college. You'll embarrass the school if you make a mistake." Ayan looked him in the eyes. Calm. Still. "I'm not afraid," he said. Zayn's smile faded. The next day, the rehearsal stage was busy. One by one, students performed short parts of their acts. Singing, guitar, dance. Then it was Ayan's turn. He walked up to the piano slowly. The room wasn't full, just a few students, the music teacher, and the janitor. Still, whispers floated around. He's going to fail. Why is he even trying? Ayan sat at the piano. His hands rested above the keys. He took a deep breath. Then, suddenly, the lights flickered. The room went dark. A soft gasp from the back. Then silence. After a few seconds, the emergency light came on, just one spotlight, right above the piano. Ayan was still sitting there, motionless. He looked like a ghost under the soft light. And then, he touched the first key. A soft note echoed through the empty room. Then another, and another. His fingers moved slowly, then faster, then slow again. A wave of music, like a quiet storm, filled the space. Even without power, even without an audience, the sound lived. The music was sad, but strong. It felt like someone crying quietly and learning to smile again. When the last note faded, Ayan stood up and walked off the stage. Mr. Kamal, the music teacher, said nothing, but his eyes were red. That night, news spread. Not from Ayan, but from a teacher who had recorded the rehearsal. He posted it online. Ayan, raw piano talent in the dark. By morning, the video had 10,000 views. Someone added a comment. This boy isn't just playing. He's speaking with music. Zayn saw the video too. His jaw tightened. He closed the app. On the day of the show, the school auditorium was full. Parents, teachers, guests, even people from the local news. Backstage, Ayan sat on a bench, eyes closed. He wasn't shaking. He wasn't nervous. He was ready. Zayn stood nearby, surrounded by friends, and dressed in his best suit. He was trying to smile, but he kept glancing at Ayan. The show began. Performers came and went. Singers, dancers, magicians. Then it was Zayn's turn. He walked to the stage with confidence. His fingers moved fast across the keys. The tune was fast, flashy, impressive. The crowd clapped loudly. He smiled and bowed. Backstage, Ayan was next. But suddenly, a noise. A loud spark. The power went out. The auditorium went completely dark. People gasped. Some laughed nervously. A teacher spoke into the mic. "Please stay calm, everyone. We're checking the issue." But before anyone could move, a single spotlight blinked on. It lit only the grand piano. The host's voice came on. "And now, Ayan." Everyone turned. Ayan walked slowly to the stage. He sat down at the piano, alone in the light. No suit, no showy entrance, just him and the keys. He closed his eyes, took a breath, and played the first note. The spotlight was silent. The room, dark and still. Ayan sat at the piano. He did not move for a few seconds. The entire auditorium waited. No one coughed. No one whispered. Even the air felt still. Then, his fingers moved. A soft, slow note. Then another. And another. Each note was light, almost like a whisper, but it was full of feeling. Every key told a story. It was not loud. It was not fast. It was not a show-off performance. But it was beautiful. People stopped blinking. The students who used to laugh at Ayan sat frozen in their seats. Zayn, watching from backstage, felt his stomach twist. He didn't understand. How could someone so quiet play something so powerful? The song grew deeper. Ayan's hands moved with more strength now. The music rose like a wave, soft at first, then higher, stronger, louder. It wasn't perfect. Some keys were missed. Some fingers slipped. But no one cared, because the music was real. It came from his heart. You could hear the sadness, the loneliness, but also hope. You could hear years of silence, of being invisible. Now, he was speaking, not with words, but with the piano. In the crowd, Ayan's little sisters sat holding their mother's hand. She smiled proudly, whispering, "He's doing it, Mama. He's really doing it." Their mother wiped her tears. Backstage, Mr. Kamal, the music teacher, stood with his hand over his chest. He had taught for 20 years, but never had he seen something like this. "This," he whispered, "is why we teach." The final part of Ayan's song was soft again, like a memory fading into the night. One by one, his fingers slowed, until the last note stayed in the air for a few seconds, then disappeared. Ayan lowered his hand slowly. He looked up. For the first time, he looked at the crowd, the spotlight still on him. And then, silence. No one moved. No one clapped. It was like the room had forgotten how to breathe. And then, boom! A loud, standing ovation. The room exploded with claps, cheers, whistles. Everyone stood. Some cried. Some just smiled. And some, like Zayn, could not believe what they had witnessed. Ayan stood slowly. He didn't bow. He simply nodded and walked off the stage. Backstage, students gathered around him. "You were amazing. That was the best thing I've ever heard. Why didn't you tell us you could play like that?" Ayan gave a small smile. "I didn't think anyone wanted to hear me," he said. Mr. Kamal stepped forward and placed his hand on Ayan's shoulder. "I heard you," he said softly. "And now, so has the world." In the crowd, two well-dressed guests stood near the back. One of them wore a badge from the National Music Conservatory. He turned to the principal and said, "Who is that boy?" The principal replied with a proud smile, "His name is Ayan." The man nodded. "I want to meet him." Later that evening, after the show ended, Ayan was packing his keyboard into its old case. A tall man approached him. "Hello," the man said. "My name is Mr. Samir. I'm from the conservatory." Ayan looked up, confused. Mr. Samir smiled kindly. "We've been searching for talent like yours. We want to offer you a full music scholarship. You deserve to be heard, Ayan." Ayan's eyes widened. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came. His mother stepped forward, eyes full of tears. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, as they walked home, Ayan's little sister jumped beside him. "You're famous now," she said. He smiled. "No," he said softly. "I just finally played loud enough for the world to hear me." Behind them, far in the shadows, Zayan sat on a bench alone. He stared at his phone screen, where Ayan's performance was already going viral. He wasn't angry anymore. He was quiet. For the first time, he understood. Talent isn't loud. It doesn't need rich clothes or applause. Real talent speaks when everything else is silent. The next morning, Ayan woke up to the sound of his phone buzzing nonstop. Message after message. His performance from the talent show had gone viral overnight. Someone had uploaded the full video. The title read, "The Silent Boy Who Let His Piano Speak, Ayan's Story." By morning, it had over 100,000 views. There were thousands of comments. "This boy just healed my heart. He doesn't need words. His music says everything. I cried listening to this." Ayan sat quietly on the edge of his bed. He didn't smile. He didn't cry. He just stared at the screen, trying to believe it was real. His little sister ran into the room. Look, they're talking about you on the news." She turned on the TV. A reporter stood outside their school. "A shy student shocked everyone last night with a piano performance full of raw emotion. Music experts call him a once-in-a-generation talent." His mother walked in slowly, holding something in her hand. It was a letter, stamped with a golden seal. Ayan took it with shaky hands. He opened it. It was real. A full scholarship to the National Music Conservatory. Free training. Free housing. A personal mentor. Everything. He looked up at his mother, eyes wide. She nodded, smiling through tears. "You've earned it, my son." At school, everything had changed. People didn't ignore Ayan anymore. They waved, smiled. Some even asked for selfies. The same kids who laughed before now whispered, "He's the one from the video. That piano guy. He's amazing." But not everyone was smiling. Zayan sat in the back of the class, silent. He stared at the same video, over and over. It played in his head like a song he couldn't escape. After class, Zayan walked slowly toward the music room. He found Mr. Kummel inside, tuning a violin. Zayan cleared his throat. "Sir, can I talk to you?" Mr. Kummel looked up and nodded. "Of course." Zayan stepped in, quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I thought I was the best." Mr. Kummel said nothing. Zayan continued, "I practiced. I had lessons. I had everything." He looked down. But when he played, it felt like the piano was crying. Mr. Kummel finally spoke. "You have skills, Zayan. But Ayan has something different." "What?" Zayan asked. "Pain," Mr. Kummel said softly, "and the courage to turn it into beauty." Zayan swallowed hard. Meanwhile, Ayan sat alone in the garden. He had the scholarship letter in his hands, but he didn't look happy. Mr. Kummel found him there. "What's wrong?" he asked, sitting beside him. Ayan looked at the trees. Everyone's talking now. But where were they before? Mr. Kummel nodded. "People only notice the light when it's shining. They don't see it growing in the dark." Ayan looked at him. "I don't know if I want this." "Why not?" "I love music, but I didn't play to be famous." Mr. Kummel smiled. "Then you're exactly where you need to be." That night, Ayan sat at his keyboard. He didn't play a song. He just pressed a few soft notes. He closed his eyes and let the sound wash over him. Then, his phone buzzed again. A message from someone he never expected. "Zayan, you played from your soul. I was wrong about you." Another message followed. "If you ever want to jam together, I'd like to learn from you." Ayan stared at the screen. For the first time, he smiled. The next day, something strange happened in music class. Zayan walked in holding a second keyboard. He placed it beside Ayan's. No words, just a quiet nod. Mr. Kamal watched with raised eyebrows. Then he said, "Shall we begin?" Ayan looked at Zayan. Zayan looked back. And together, they played. Two different styles. One fast, sharp, trained. The other soft, raw, emotional. But somehow, it worked. The class listened, stunned. It wasn't just music. It was healing. Later, as the school day ended, Ayan sat alone under a tree. He looked at his scholarship letter again, then at his fingers. He wasn't invisible anymore, but he had never wanted to be famous. He just wanted people to hear what he felt inside. Now, they did. And somewhere in the distance, behind the soft sounds of wind and leaves, he heard it again. The first note, the one that changed everything. Ayan sat at the dinner table, staring at the scholarship letter. It felt heavier now. Not because of the paper, but because of what it meant. Across the table, his mother watched him quietly. She didn't rush him. She didn't push him. She just said, "It's your life, Veda. You choose your path." Ayan nodded slowly, but his heart was full of noise. That night, he couldn't sleep. He sat on his bed with the keyboard on his lap, softly pressing notes. Each sound was a question. Should I go? Will I fit in? Will I lose myself? The conservatory meant change. Big change. A new city. New people. New pressure. But more than that, it meant leaving his mother, his sister, his small, quiet world. The next morning, Mr. Kamal called him into the music room. "You haven't replied to the conservatory yet," he said gently. Ayan looked down. "I don't know if I'm ready." Mr. Kamal gave a soft smile. "Let me tell you something." He pointed to an old framed photo on the wall. A young boy holding a violin. "That was me," he said. "I got a chance to study music abroad, but I was scared. I stayed back." "Do you regret it?" Ayan asked. Mr. Kamal paused, then said, "No. Because I became a teacher, I helped others find their music. But I often wonder, what would have happened if I had gone?" He looked at Ayan and said, "You don't have to be ready. You just have to be brave." Later that day, Zayan found Ayan sitting under their usual tree. He handed him a flash drive. "What's this?" Ayan asked. "A song I wrote. I want you to finish it." Ayan looked surprised. Together, Zayan shrugged. "Why not? You have the heart. I have the technique. It could work." They both smiled. Then Ayan asked, "Would you go, if it were you?" Zayan went quiet. Then he said, "I don't know, but I know you were born for this." That evening, Ayan stood outside the post office with the reply envelope in his hand. He looked at the sky, then at the letter. His hands trembled. He closed his eyes and heard the first note again, the one that changed everything. His fingers stopped shaking. He walked inside, and he mailed the letter. The next week flew by. People came from the conservatory to meet Ayan's family. They took pictures, signed documents, arranged his stay. They gave him a schedule, a welcome letter, and a list of mentors. Everything was ready. But Ayan wasn't thinking about the big things. He was thinking about the small ones, like the way his sister made him laugh at dinner, or the way his mother hummed while cooking, or how the keyboard in his room still had a crack from when he dropped it years ago. On his last day before leaving, the school organized a farewell. This time, it wasn't a joke. There were no whispers, no laughter, only respect. Students made banners. Some brought flowers. Even teachers clapped as Ayan entered the auditorium. He stood on stage, nervous. Then he spoke. Just a few words. "I never thought I mattered, but music helped me find my voice, and you all finally heard it." The crowd clapped. Some even cried. He sat at the piano, not to show off, but to say goodbye. He played a new song, one of hope, of letting go, of stepping forward. It was soft, and strong, and beautiful. When the final note ended, the crowd stood again. But Ayan didn't wait. He simply smiled and walked away. That night at home, he packed his bag. Just a few clothes, the scholarship papers, a family photo, and his keyboard. It barely fit, but he made it work. His mother hugged him tightly at the door. "Be yourself," she whispered. His sister waved, eyes shining. "You better become famous," she joked. Ayan just smiled. "I'll become something." As the taxi pulled away, he looked out the window. He saw his street, his school, his world. But he didn't feel sad. He felt ready. The road ahead was long, and the city waiting for him was big. But somewhere inside, the first note was still playing, and it would guide him. Wherever he went, Ayan stepped off the train into a new world. Tall buildings stood like giants around him. The air smelled different. Cars honked. People moved fast. No one looked at him. No one smiled. He was invisible again. But this time, he didn't mind. He wasn't here to be seen. He was here to play. The National Music Conservatory was bigger than anything Ayan had imagined. Marble floors, glass walls, rooms filled with grand pianos, violins, guitars, and instruments he had never even seen before. Everyone here looked serious, focused, trained. Ayan walked in with his old backpack and a second-hand keyboard case. He felt small again, but he kept walking. His first class was piano composition. The room was silent until the teacher walked in, a tall man with silver hair and sharp eyes. "Play something," he said without saying hello. A girl stepped forward. She played fast and perfect. Next, a boy with fancy shoes played a complicated jazz piece. Then the teacher looked at Ayan. "You." Ayan walked slowly to the piano. His hands trembled. He sat, and he played. Not fast, not loud, just true. A song about home, about fear, about rising. The room stayed silent long after he stopped. The teacher blinked, then said, "That was music." Days turned into weeks. Ayan practiced harder than ever. Classes were intense. Sometimes he messed up. Sometimes he felt lost. But each time, he got back up. He wasn't trying to impress anymore. He was trying to grow. One evening, Ayan got a message from home. It was a voice note from his little sister. "Bye, your song played on the radio today," Mom cried. "I did too." He listened to it twice, then again, and he smiled. A few months later, the conservatory held its biggest event of the year, the Grand Winter Showcase. Only 5 students were chosen to perform on the main stage. Ayan's name was on the list. He couldn't believe it. The week before the show, Ayan got a video call from Zayn. He looked proud. "You're doing it, man," Zayn said. "I'm watching the live stream. Don't mess up." Ayan laughed. "No pressure, huh?" Zayn smirked. "Break the keys if you have to." The day of the show arrived. The hall was packed. Famous musicians, rich donors, even reporters. Ayan sat backstage, hands cold. He stared at the grand piano on stage. It looked massive, almost alive. He whispered to himself, "Just play like you're at home." When his name was called, the lights dimmed. The crowd hushed. Ayan walked slowly to the piano, sat down, closed his eyes, and breathed. Then he played. A song born from every silent moment of his life, from every insult, every tear, every quiet night with his keyboard under his bed. The music rose. It danced. It cried. It sang. It told the story of a boy who had nothing, but still gave everything. When he finished, there was silence. And then, thunderous applause. People stood. Cameras flashed. Some were crying. Even the toughest judge had watery eyes. Backstage, the silver-haired teacher found Ayan. He looked at him and said, "You didn't play music tonight. You became it." Ayan bowed his head, humble. "Thank you, sir." That night, Ayan returned to his room. He looked out the window. The city lights blinked like stars. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Mr. Kamal. "You've gone far, Ayan, but never forget who you are." Another message came right after. From Zayn, "Proud of you, bro. Let's make music together soon." And one last one. From Mom, "You did it. But remember, your music began with love, not fame. Keep it that way." Ayan smiled, holding the phone to his heart. Then he looked at his keyboard in the corner. He walked over, sat down, and played again. Not for the crowd, not for the judges, just for himself. The boy who was once invisible had become unforgettable. Not because of noise, but because of the silence he turned into sound. 2 years had passed. The city had changed Ayan. His walk was steadier, his voice clearer, his fingers faster. But one thing stayed the same, his heart. No matter how far he went, he still remembered that silent boy, the one who sat at the back of the class, the one no one clapped for. That boy still lived inside him. Ayan stood at the airport with his keyboard case in hand. He was going back to the town where it all began, not for a visit, but for something bigger. As the plane touched down, memories flooded in. The dusty road to school, the sound of his sister laughing, the smell of his mother's cooking, and the soft hum of an old broken keyboard under his bed. At home, his mother opened the door with tears in her eyes. "My boy," she whispered, hugging him tight. He smiled. "I missed your doll more than I missed the piano." They both laughed and cried a little. The next morning, Ayan walked to his old school. Children ran past him, laughing. Some teachers stopped and stared. Is that? Could it be? Ayan. He smiled and waved. When he entered the music room, Mr. Kamal was still there. He turned and froze. Then he grinned. "I knew you'd come back." Ayan hugged him. "I came to return something." He placed a small box on the desk. Inside, a golden badge. Honorary Music Mentor, National Conservatory. Mr. Kamal's hand shook. "You deserve this more than I ever will," Ayan said softly. Tears fell silently down the teacher's cheeks. The principal called a special assembly that afternoon. Every student gathered, and then Ayan walked onto the stage. No spotlight, no grand entrance, just a simple boy with a not-so-simple gift. He sat behind the school piano. It was old, out of tune, but he smiled. "Still better than nothing," he whispered. And then he played. He played the same melody he once played in the National Concert Hall, but slower, gentler, like a lullaby for the past. The hall fell silent. Even the noisiest kids listened with wide eyes. The song ended. A beat passed. Then applause. But not the loud kind. The soft, slow, respectful kind. Like rain tapping on a window. After the performance, a little boy came up to him. He had glasses too big for his face. "Sir," the boy asked shyly, "how did you get so good?" Ayan knelt down, looked into his eyes, and said, "Because I stopped trying to be loud and started trying to be honest." That evening, Zayn came to visit. He looked taller, sharper, more confident. But when he hugged Ayan, he was the same old friend. "I'm proud of you, man," he said. "You showed the world what we always knew." They sat under the tree where it all started. Zayn took out a flash drive. "Still working on that song," he said. "Needs your magic touch." Ayan grinned. "Let's finish it." 1 week later, Ian stood at the town hall stage. But this time, he wasn't the performer. He was the guest of honor. The mayor introduced him. This town raised a quiet boy, and that boy raised us all with his music. The crowd stood as he came forward. But he didn't say anything grand. Just this: if one kid in this crowd feels invisible, this is for you. He nodded to the side, and his little sister came on stage. She sat beside him. Together, they played the song they made at home every evening, the one no one else ever heard, until now. After the concert, a reporter asked Ian, "What's next for you?" He smiled. "I've played for thousands. I've played for kings. But nothing felt like playing for home." Then he added quietly, "I think it's time I opened a music school here." The reporter's eyes widened. "Here? In this town?" Ian nodded. "Why not? This town made me. Maybe I can help make someone else." Weeks later, the first stone was laid for the Ian Music Academy. Children signed up eagerly. Some rich, some poor, all full of dreams. And every day, Ian sat with them, not as a celebrity, but as a teacher, just like Mr. Kamal once sat with him. And on quiet nights when everyone else had gone home, Ian would sit alone in the classroom, turn on his old keyboard, and play. Not for fame, not for applause, just for the boy he used to be. The boy who once thought he was nobody, but found his everything in music.